Hello and welcome back to Green Money Momentum, where we talk about market movements, making money, and money momentum. I'm your host, Trevor, and today we're going to be talking all about what we could see coming this week in the markets. Today, it is Sunday, June 22nd, and a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt this weekend. We're also going to talk about the stock DJT, but starting off with the news, we do know that the United States has officially entered the conflict between Israel and Iran. And so Trump did write on Truth Social yesterday. He said, "We have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran. All planes are now are outside of Iran airspace. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter." So I'm seeing a lot of individuals on Twitter and also on YouTube and just other places on the internet thinking that the market is going to have a big crash from this event, from Trump and the United States entering into this conflict. But what I encourage investors to remember is that the markets are always up and to the right. And so during the whole history of the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and the markets, there will be drawdowns in the short term, but there is always recovery. So the markets do always push up. And when we just look at the history of some of the events that caused short-term market crashes that the market recovered from, we have the Great Depression, we have World War II, we have the inflationary bear market during the 70s. That was a lot of fear. That was when the United States went off of the gold standard. So a lot there, but that is also a significantly important time in U.S. history. We could see after that we have Black Monday, quickly recovered the lost decade, COVID, and Ukraine. And the reason why I point out this as a really important key piece of the United States' history is because this is when the United States went off the gold standard, and so money more than ever became fake and became fiat at that time. And so there is a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt around the U.S. national debt. We do know that they did just reach another all-time high on debt. It's always an all-time high on the debt. It never really goes down, but the number did go up by 1. So it went to from 36 trillion now to officially 37 trillion. And a lot of individuals are freaking out because they are saying that now the United States government is getting closer to all the money they have to pay going towards the interest on the debt rather than the debt itself. But you know, the United States government always continues to print money. The money printer never stops. And even with this last year, with Jerome Powell keeping rates a little bit tighter, quantitative easing never truly ends. And there will come a time when we get that next rate cut and more in the future. And if things get bad enough, the United States will cut that interest rate down even more and also print more money. And so this doesn't freak me out because this number is only going to grow with time there, but that gives me a little bit of comfort as an investor because I know that the money printer is always working for me, especially since these times right around the 1970s. And that's why we've had such big recoveries with the recent fear, uncertainty, and doubt that we have had. First, with COVID-19, we know the United States cut rates down to 0%, printed a bunch of money, gave out the stimulus checks, and then with 2022 with Russia and Ukraine, a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt there, but the markets have only continued to push up. So if you really look in the short term, moments like this weekend could cause a lot of panic and could cause investors to sell out early. But if you have a long-term mentality, you have a long picture on what the markets will do, this could be seen as a buying opportunity. Currently, when we do look at the major indexes, they also do sit at an interesting level because we do know we did get a bit overbought there for a second with the SPY and then also the triple Qs. So right now we have trailed a little bit down on the RSI and the MACD, but we didn't quite reach the highs that were set before the bleeding when Trump got into office. So we are a lot higher than the lows set around Liberation Day. But with this event, some are thinking that there's going to be a big drawdown in the market. At the worst, I could see the major indexes returning right about to the 200-day moving average, but by no means do do I think that we are going to return to the lows set around Liberation Day. This is just some bad news in the short term. And in terms of actual war for the people of Iran and Israel, I think that is just so unfortunate to be in a war-torn country. That is very sad. And as an American myself who's never been to either of those places, for the civilians, for those who are not involved in this, I just wish them the best, because truly when it comes to these nations and when it comes to these big attacks and wars, it's so sad, because really it's just the 1% fighting, and then the civilians of that nation are going to have to eat the blunt cost of whatever it be, the inflation that comes with the economy, the bombs dropped on their head. And so very sad that in the current day these types of events are happening, and I overall just want peace in the world. Now, with the economic calendar, all of the war stuff, of course, not on the economic calendar, but big news. But just on the economic calendar, we do have some big numbers this week coming up. So we have PMI numbers on Monday, and then also existing home sales on Monday, with new home sales on Wednesday. So those are going to be some interesting things to look at with the economic calendar. We also have news around goods on Thursday, and then on Friday, a lot of numbers around inflation. So it's going to be interesting to see how the markets react to all this news and what the market sentiment is this week. We do know on the fear and greed index, we are currently sitting at levels of neutrality. And so with this fear, uncertainty, and doubt, it could cause a bit of a drawdown in the markets. But also, let's remember that the markets can be irrational, and there is still the chance that we continue to push up, because we have been on this swift recovery from the lows set around Liberation Day. And so when we just look at the market psychology, I would say with the last cycle coming from January all the way to Liberation Day, we felt a lot of this downside. And when things got the worst right around Liberation Day is when we felt the panic. We had a little bit of capitulation, but in the most recent term, I believe that we have seen a good recovery, but we still have a ways to go. So personally, I believe that we are in optimism. We are in between optimism and enthusiasm. We still have a way to go up to euphoria, because this war, we still haven't seen how it's going to affect the markets yet. The futures haven't opened. But in the short term, all the other fear, uncertainty, and doubt that we have seen, the Moody's downgrading and other tensions with this war that have already happened, the markets have shooken off a lot of that fear. And so I do believe that the markets will continue to shake off that fear. But when we do just look at the short term on what has happened today, how the markets have reacted, of course, the futures aren't open, but the crypto markets are reacting. Bitcoin has drawn down under 100,000, and as well as the other cryptos, I do believe that the markets will start off red. But again, the markets are irrational, so could pop green tomorrow. But I wouldn't be surprised if we do see some more bleeding off, just like we're seeing with crypto this weekend. And so Bitcoin sitting in an interesting spot that may return back to the 200-day moving average. But I'm actually getting very bullish on cryptocurrency right now, because first off, just looking at the technical indicators on Bitcoin, we could see that we are starting to get lower on the relative strength index and on the MACD, and this is still right around 100,000. And so just on technical indicators, we could see a pop in Bitcoin sometime in the short term. There could still be a little bit more of a drawdown, but it's very positive that the other indicators of the relative strength and the MACD are showing that we are lower, signaling that we should have a pop sometime here in the near term. And with that, the president, Donald Trump, is taking advantage of cryptocurrency. He is pushing us more into the mass adoption into cryptocurrency. And this is why I wanted to talk about the stock DJT, because Trump media has recently filed to have a $2.5 billion purchase within their stock. So a treasury within DJT. Because of this, there is a little bit of short-term dilution, but what's really important is that these Bitcoin gains will show up on their balance sheet. And with cryptocurrency bleeding, I personally see this as a buying opportunity. I think we're going to have a quick rip up sometime in Bitcoin that should also translate to DJT. And we know a lot of different companies are taking advantage of the mass adoption into cryptocurrency and also buying Bitcoin treasuries and reserves within their company. So just like Bitcoin, DJT also sitting low on the relative strength index and on the MACD, and in my opinion is sitting in the basement when we look at the candlestick chart, because it is under the major floor, sitting right around $21. So actually right before market close on Friday, I did buy some long-term options contracts in DJT with a break-even price right around $21. So I'm very excited to see what we're going to see coming up in DJT and in the world of crypto. We're only pushing more into the mass adoption into cryptocurrency. We saw recently the Senate pass a bill that is going to help with stable coins. So it still has to go through the House and still has to get approval by the president. But as we know, DJT is the most pro-crypto president of all time. So I foresee that bill completely getting passed, which is only going to help to push us more into the mass adoption into cryptocurrency. And so with everything happening right now, if I'm going to purchase anything more in the markets, it's going to be either with DJT, which is taking advantage of the mass adoption into cryptocurrency, or Bitcoin while we are getting closer to these lows and the indicators are showing that we have a good buying opportunity. Another thing to note with DJT, in the short term, we may see a big catalyst when it comes to their Q4 earnings. And so the number keeps getting pushed back. This is kind of frustrating. It's so funny. I did videos weeks ago and it said that the earnings were coming in like 11 to 12 days. Every time I check, it just gets pushed back further, but they have yet to release their Q4 earnings for 2024. Their biggest quarter in 2024 was Q3, so possibly a chance that we do see a bigger earnings in Q4 of 2024. Now, Q4 2025 went right back to the previous quarters when it comes to where they were at. But what's really positive with DJT, they did have a lot of cash on hand. Overall, this company getting closer to profitability. We could see their first quarter in 2024 was really bad. They had a negative $3 in earnings per share, but in their last quarter, just negative 14 cents. Interesting to see what this company's earnings are, possibly a short-term catalyst. But overall, I do believe in DJT. I believe in what this company is doing when it comes to cryptocurrency, and I think we are getting closer and closer to seeing some positive price movements in the big Bitcoin as well as all other cryptocurrencies and DJT. But I would be curious to hear what everyone else thinks in the comments section below. So please drop a comment. Please let me know what you think about cryptocurrency, what you think about DJT, what you think about the overall macroeconomics and what is happening in the world. So please let me know your opinion. Please leave a like and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. We will return tomorrow to our regularly scheduled program, our daily talk of stock. I hope to see you guys there. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.